Is innovation dead? I don't think so. Today, I'm really excited to bring you guys a new special take on a specialty pressing barbell. I present the Black Widow VHS Bar. Now, the reason for my clickbaity type question, is innovation dead? It's really not. Like, there's a lot of good innovation that comes out, but so often what we see in the home gym community and with manufacturers, commercial and kind of consumer line, is you see the same things over and over. This is our take on a barbell. This is our take on a belt squat. This is our take on a lat tower. And although there are innovations that occur within those smaller ecosystems, it's not very often that we have something that just truly breaks the mold on a barbell category. That's a big part of what has me excited about today's review. Now, I got the Black Widow VHS. I did get it sent to me free of charge. This was the one that was at Home Gym Con, so it got lots of use at Home Gym Con, and it's got a lot of use here. I'm excited to tell you guys all about it, tell you about my experiences, and of course wrap it all up with, do I recommend it for you? So this is the VHS Bar, and it kind of looks like a VHS cassette, but VHS actually does stand for something. This bar was designed for pressing, pulling, pushing, and rowing type movements done with your hands, not your feet, although I'm sure some of you could probably get creative. VHS actually stands for Viking Press, Hammer Curl, and Seal Row, and we'll go over the actual lifts in just a second, but VHS is really just a nice acronym because it really does kind of look like the two little cassette windy things that so many of us old people, had to stick our finger in to wind the tape back up when the tape deck got eaten by the Ford Fiesta or whatever we were driving back then. Now, this bar was actually a variation of another bar that Dean over at Black Widow had already innovated. It was his Hammer Curl bar, and it had a single set of handles and some loadable pins. The request came in for a rackable version, and in order to keep the bar stiff or just to make it wider or just to make it more functional, instead of just extending the sleeves to be rackable, he actually added in this second set of wider handles. The bar that you see in front of you today is the result of that request, and it's really one of those things that I think we've been missing in the space for a while. But first, let's go over some details with the materials used. Now, this bar is from tip to tip, 80 3/4 inches long, which makes it so it ships nice and inexpensively, long enough that you can load plenty of weight, but not too long that you have to ship freight. The entire bar is made out of Schedule 80 tubing. What that does mean though is that it has a 1.9 inch outside diameter. So for all of you axle collar haters, the bar itself consists of two box style grips. So you have a grip here, here, and then here, and I guess you could also grip here, and I'm sure Deadliest Lift might get a hold of one of these things and decide to do some sort of crazy lift right there, but for the rest of us, this one's a little bit less meant as a grip. So really what you get is 3 grips per side. What these grips correspond to is neutral narrow, neutral wide, and then of course seal row. And that's where the seal row comes from, is because of this channel that's cut in there and these handles right here. It accommodates a longer range of motion, allowing you to perform your seal rows. Now, the actual load that you put on the bar, the weight that you're gonna put on the bar, is actually centered with the middle of the boxes, which makes it a nice and balanced barbell. Each sleeve is 12 3/4 inches of loadable sleeve length long. However, as I alluded to earlier, it is made out of Schedule 80 tubing, meaning it will require some specialty axle clamps. Now, for someone like me that trains and competes in Strongman, and I have that equipment here in the gym, I have tons of axle clamps just laying around, so it's no big deal. But if you try to put on a traditional clamp, like these normal barbell clamps made for standard barbells, when you push them on, they will just as easily push right back off. Now, there are 2 finish variations for the handles. You can get it in just the Black Widow training gear grippy powder coat, which I can tell you is one of the best out there as far as grippy powder coats. I would say that the toss-up for #1 as far as the grippiest powder coat is going to be Black Widow and Mike Bartow's Power Center. And then second place is literally anybody else trying to compete. Everybody else that I've tried so far sucks at grippy powder coat. The other option is to do it in a knurled, and then it also gets that grippy powder coat treatment, and that's what I have in front of me here. When you order that version, basically just the handles will have the knurl, and everything else will just have the grippy powder coat. The entire bar weighs 36.5 pounds. The website claims 35 pounds, but with different manufacturing variances that might occur during the process, or just your scale, it might be 35 pounds. Now with this bar, you can perform a lot of different movements. It's super well constructed and it's balanced, and because of the way that the handles are placed, it actually opens up a lot as far as opportunity. Now it can accommodate the Viking press, or in reality, any sort of neutral grip overhead press. So if you just want to do strict press, push jerk, whatever you're into training, you can do that. The unit can also perform hammer curls, so it gives you that full range of motion because of the unique cutout there. Additionally, with the cutout, when you're performing overhead movements, you don't have to move your head around the bar. You basically just get directly underneath, and when you press the bar overhead, your head just goes in the middle of the bar, so no more do you have to worry about that clearance issue. Additionally, it works really well for seal rows, and again, VHS, that's what the bar was made to do. It does all three of those really well, but it actually does even more. Now, to address a few things with the V, H, and S, we're gonna start with the S, which is the seal row, and what we have is 14.5 inches of space that the bar can actually come up and extend the range of motion for the seal row lift. For most people, that 14.5 inches is going to be enough to clear their bench and potentially clear their torso. If you're bigger than that, I do also know that Dean does do custom work, so if you need a custom VHS bar made, this might be the one for you as well. Now, I've spoken a few times about the balance of the bar, and a lot of the balance of the bar comes from the very specific measurements used in order to make these boxes for the handles. Now, again, 14.5 inches in between, and then what you have is about 7 3/4 inches of actual usable handle area. So if most of you go and measure your hand, I think what you're gonna find is that if you have really little hands, this bar is not gonna feel too big for you. And if you have really big hands, this bar is going to feel very comfortable, but not too small for you. If you have normal size hands like this guy, it's gonna feel just right. Now the handles are made out of that same Schedule 80 material. That 1.5 inch Schedule 80 has that 1.9 inch outside diameter. And of course with the knurl on this, it's gonna increase it just a little bit. So we'll just call it 2 inches. But like I alluded to earlier, when you're performing overhead press movements with it, you don't have to worry about your head having to clear the bar. You don't have to worry about looking through the window. Although you're still looking through the window, you can do it throughout the entire range of motion. Now, when you're using these narrow handles, what you'll find is that they are about 16 3/4 to 17 inches apart, depending on how you measure exactly. And then the outside handles are about 30 inches apart from center to center. What I find specifically for Strongman is that this allows you to do wide grip pressing work as well as narrow grip pressing work, so you can better simulate whatever event you're going to. One really cool thing about the VHS bar, and something I really appreciate, is how well it replicates the handle position being a neutral grip, so that I can do a lot of log style push pressing without actually having to get my log out and put it in the rack. This one is just a lot easier to use, and the handles are close enough that it replicates the movement pretty well. Some other movements that this works really well for is any sort of bench press movement, whether that's an incline, flat, decline, whatever you're into. This thing does it really well, and again, at that narrow or outside grip. It also does a lot of either chest supported rows, a seal row, or you can just do general rowing motions. The other thing that it's really good for, and it says, is curls, but if we were to look at the opposite side of that muscle group, we're looking at our triceps, and one thing that I really do appreciate is how well it actually works for tricep extensions, especially when you hit the rack. Really thought through that. So that's enough about how it's designed and what I've used it for. How well is it constructed? Really what I got to say here is that I am impressed. I've seen a lot of Dean's work. I'm very impressed with Dean's work. He does a good job. It's very clear that he's a lifter that cares about producing a quality product that other lifters can enjoy. When it comes to the knurl, it is very consistently done all the way throughout all of the knurled sections. When it comes to the powder coat, again, consistent, A+ scores on both of those. And when it comes to a bar that you put in your hands, where you have a lot of dexterity and a lot of feel, those are two super important things that can really make a bar feel like an A+ quality item or a C grade piece of crap. Some things about the powder coat is it does extend to be on the sleeves. That means that as you put plates on and off of the bar, it's gonna wear out. But that's the same thing with every non-rotating axle style sleeve out there. That's nothing new, so that is going to wear out. But even after all of the use that this one has had, it's still held up pretty good. And I'm definitely not treating it like, you know, easy. One other thing that I've noticed is that using my barbell rescue brush, the knurl releases chalk just as easily as it takes chalk. And I think that that's a really important factor as well. Now, using any brush, I'm sure you could do it, but the barbell rescue brush made for normal barbells does work on this, and it makes cleanup a breeze after a heavy lifting day where it's sweaty like today, and I'm gonna be using tons of chalk in order to maintain my grip and make me feel motivated. Some other details about the construction is how consistent the welds are. There's no sharp points, there's no slag. I have reviewed other specialty bars out there, multi-grip style bars, and they have every once in a while you'll have like a burr, you'll have some areas where it hasn't been actually smoothed down. And then the other thing that I really love is that when I tilt the bar from side to side, I don't hear any slag running on the inside. Not that I'm trying to throw shade, but looking at you guys, Elite FTS. It does have these plastic end caps on all of the ends, and I actually have yet to have one of these pop out. Normally, I'm not a big plastic end cap liker guy. However, I do understand that they're just really easy to knock in. The problem that I've found with them in the past is that they pop out just as easily as they go in. But that hasn't been my experience so far using this bar in my gym. Now, if they do eventually come out, that's really not a big deal, but they really do seem like they're really well applied. If I was to ask for something a little bit more bougie, I would just say, hey, is there any way that we can maybe weld that shut? But that's just me really getting nitpicky about something that really doesn't matter that much, because overall it doesn't take away from the function, it doesn't take away from the appearance all that much. The other thing that I really like with its construction quality, which again I have talked to before, so sorry for the double point here, but just is how nicely balanced the bar actually is. That can be a little bit surprising because there's a whole section of steel right here that isn't there, but that is here over on this side. That means that there had to be some math, there's some little scientific experimentation to get this thing to feel balanced in the hands, even though it's missing probably a pound of weight right here. So that brings me up to how well does it work? And I gotta say that it works really well. I'm a big fan. I think that this bar is a very underrated and undervalued, and nobody's really talking about it either. I think it's starting to gain some traction, which I'm very excited for. Dean definitely deserves some business. This thing is a super good bar that needs to be in a lot more training facilities. Me in particular, at this moment in time, I am training for a maximum log lift going on at America's Strongest Veteran, and I can tell you that I have been using this bar like crazy in my prep for that competition. Now for the VHS lift, so if you are training for a Viking press and you don't have access to a lever style Viking press, this is a really good way to get a good Viking press feel without having a Viking press. Now for the hammer curls, it works really well. I'll be honest, I really don't do hammer curls all that often in my programming. However, I did test it for the sake of this review, and both with the wide grip and the narrow grip, I find that the bar feels good, works properly, and again, because it's missing this section of bar right here, when you go to the top of the range of motion, you can actually get the bar completely where it needs to go. Additionally, if you wanted to increase the range of motion on the bottom for like a tricep extension or for a bicep curl that extends further down, it's wide enough that it clears your body, but not so wide that the narrow grip is a wide grip. One of the movements that I was very surprised about and I continue to just be impressed with is seal rows on this thing feel fantastic. I wasn't really expecting them to be all that good, but they just are, and why not have a bar that can also increase the range of motion on a chest isolated rowing movement like a seal row? I find that for my bench, which right now I'm using the Stray Dog Alpha bench, it clears the pad just fine, it clears my body just fine, and it's the perfect width that I'm getting my hands exactly where I need them while still getting that full range of motion with as heavy as a load as I can manage. If you do any sort of bench press work, this bar is also going to be really nice for you. And some other parts about the wider handles that are really nice is that because it's so wide, it tends to center the load a little bit over the middle of your wrist better, or at least I find it does that better. So I'm not really putting the weight in the fingers. I'm doing a really easy grab and the weight is easily over my radius and my ulna, which provides a more comfortable press at higher weights as well. Some other kudos, the 36.5 pound or 35 pound starting weight makes it nice and easy to move around the gym. It also makes it nice and easy whether you are a female, male, a teen, a little kid that's coming into pressing for the first time. I mean, 35 pounds might be heavy for like a young kid, but this bar is light enough that it is friendly to people that can't lift as much, but it's also heavy duty enough that it can accommodate all sorts of weight to accommodate the heaviest bench pressers in the world. Another note about this though is because of the design, and again, this is something that all of these Swiss style bars share, is that it will require some additional storage space rather than just a single bar storage. How I actually store mine is basically just like this on the very top of my storage unit, and I just flip it up and backwards and it just stays up there nice and out of the way. And the way that I have my French cleat wall built, it only takes up one actual storage spot. This doesn't mean that the bar is without its improvements. Now, I did touch on the end caps that I would love to see as welded style end caps earlier in the video, but another improvement that I'd love to see is maybe some knurl brakes in the middle of the handle where you go to grip the bar. No review is complete without talking about cost, and this one will come in at $280 for the base unit. However, this is not the base unit. I have the bougie version that has the knurled grips. Now, I do think that for most people, that is a worthy upgrade in considering. I would also say though that the standard grippy powder coat is also a nice grippy powder coat. So if the money is there for a $40 upcharge on something that I think is well worth $40, I would say go ahead and hit the button on that 40 bucks and spend $320 for this bar. But if you're trying to save the money, or you're basically saving right up to that $280 cost plus shipping, then go ahead and just buy it with the standard grippy powder coat, because at the end of the day, it's gonna be just fine. Now, code KL10 will save you 10% at checkout, so that's gonna help you guys out. Now, I'm not affiliated with Black Widow Training Gear. I purchased this shirt full price, but Dean sent me the bar for free. I really feel like I made out well in that deal. But if you were to pay for it, it would be $45.94 for the shipping to my place from Dean. Now, I live in Ohio. Dean is, I believe, in New York, if memory serves. So if you live in California, you know, it might be a little bit more of a cost, but at the end of the day, $45 for shipping is a pretty reasonable cost as far as I have seen. Now, this puts the bar to me for $333.94. In my opinion, well worth it. I have spent considerably more on bars that I like a lot less. So in summary, the Black Widow Training Gear VHS Bar is a game changer in specialty barbells. With its robust design, versatile grips, and excellent build quality, it excels in various exercises like Viking presses, hammer curls, and seal rows, as well as others. Weighing 35 pounds or 36 pounds if you're really digging in the weeds, and priced at $280, it's a really solid investment for anyone looking to enhance their strength training routine. The option for knurled grips adds a little extra bit of nice, and the balanced design makes it easy to use and really easy to store. I highly recommend it for its innovation, for its performance, and also don't forget that code KL10 will save you 10% at checkout on your purchase. I appreciate each and every single one of you that watch these videos, and I will see you next time.